What's up, Louisville? Welcome to Louisville's Finest, a talent showcase. We're here at Bonner Library. We're going to have a panel of 8 black cartoonists who will discuss their history, their art, how they got into being cartoonists and animators, and how they have been successful over the years and how they inspired others to do the same as they have. So thank you for tuning in to Louisville's Finest, a talent showcase.
Hi, my name is John McKissick, and I'm the owner of the Wire Inc. Entertainment. And we produce the Southwick Adventures out on YouTube right now. And this is William, he's one of our castmates.
Hello, my name is William Hamilton. I'm a voiceover artist. I work with John McKissick here for the Southwick Gang Adventures, and I do the voice of Dinky.
My name is Randy Gray, and I am a caricature artist and cartoonist, and just have a website. I pretty much am a freelance artist, designer, and sometimes educator.
I'm Dr. Randy Nichols. I am a longtime advocate of comics and comicdom, and I'm usually here as the host for this particular panel discussion.
Hi, my name is Martin Lindsay of the Animated World of Martin Lindsay. I'm an animation instructor and a fan of independent black comic art.
Hi, my name is Darren Canton. I'm an illustrator. I specialize in children's books, fantasy art, and cartooning.
Willie Peppers. I run Black Mars Media. I concentrate mainly on comic book illustration, book design, typesetting, and book cover design.
My name is John Maupin. I'm a cartoonist. I'm the creator of The Funny Guy. Create the stories, draw the stories, have a book published. So.
One of the things we want to think about as part of the presentation today is that images have been with us since the earliest day of mankind, from the cave painting drawings to Egyptian hieroglyphics to still photos by Matthew Brady to movies and now 3D and animated opportunities. What we wanted to bring as part of this discussion today is how the black image is being portrayed in cartoons, in the media, and so on and so forth. And also to discuss with you all the opportunities for those of you who may have an interest in this particular genre or field, how you can get involved with this as well. Our panelists would be more than happy to answer questions for you, talk to you about their projects, and let you know what it is that inspired them and how they hopefully can inspire you to get into the field as well. We want to thank you all for attending today and look forward to some good interaction, discussions, and opportunity to talk to you all. There have been, for the last 6 generations in this country, variations of how artistry has been portrayed, whether it's been through comic strips in newspapers and magazines, whether it's been through cartoons on television, or other various forms of artist and drawing and opportunities of that nature. And as we think about these things, we also want to think about how does one particular form differ from another. We've listened to different things as we've grown up, Saturday morning cartoons to editorial cartoons to just regular comic strips and comic books and things of this nature. We've seen a resurgence over the last 20 years or so of the comic book, and particularly in the film market. And we're seeing now how Marvel and Disney are making billions of dollars off of the comic book industry, because people in my generation, and I started reading comics probably back around 1963, 1964, we've now gone from the point where we were little kids to the point where now we're in a position to become consumers in demand, people in positions of power, and we enjoy the things that we grew up with. Now it's come to a point in time that when we can see these characters in a movie and those characters are presented the way we remember them, we like that. And now you also have a new generation who've had their own experiences, and we want them to have the opportunity to enjoy their experiences as well. So what I'd like to throw out to the panel as an initial discussion is, how do you see the work that you're doing now changing with the coming generations, particularly in terms of technology and other shifting culture, in not only this country but throughout the world? And any one of y'all are free to answer.
I think for me, the motivation to use animation as an art form is specifically for some of those historic and cultural reasons that you mentioned. My specific motivation is to have an impact to control the narrative of the image of our people, and not just African Americans particularly, but Black people internationally. I'm not a big fan of mass-produced media. I'm a huge fan of independent artists, based on Black age comic artists that I met in Chicago when I lived there a few years ago. For those of you who may not be familiar with some of the history of the comic book movement, DC and Marvel are the big two that you may be familiar with. They're from the 30s to all the way up to the 70s. There were two major movements. There was the Silver Age of comics, and there was the Golden Age of comics. Well, starting in the 90s with independent Black artists around the country, especially beginning with the evolution of the internet and social media earlier in this century, there was the Black Age of comics. So there are Black comic artists all around the country who are making their own comic books and have been for years. Social media and animation has brought some of those things to life, like some of the larger companies that some of us grew up watching. So we can watch and control our own imagery now, and we can counter what that's in the mass media that kind of denigrates our people, kind of destroys our reputation on an international scale, and we can counter it with things that are more that build us up more than those things that tear us down. So that's my motivation. It's on a global scale in order to reposition how we are viewed and how we view ourselves as a matter of self-love.
What I wanted to do is try to kill the stereotype that anything that comes from the projects or anything that comes from any type of poverty is bad. So I wanted to take that and twist it so any kid can actually learn from this, not just one color, but all colors. Because like I said, everybody has a certain type of poverty, even with white, Black, Puerto Rican, Mexican, everybody deals with the same thing. It's just in the media, Black, for some reason, is the bottom of the barrel. Yeah. So I wanted to kind of take this cartoon and kind of push it to the top of the barrel. That's how I wanted to impact everybody with this cartoon, and others to follow.
As we watched your cartoon, a lot of the imagery was very positive, and it was uplifting. It was something that, as you pointed out, was family friendly and family focused. One of the issues that's going on in particularly the industry now, particularly with the comics being made a movie, especially with Marvel, is the idea that not only are we getting the traditional stereotypical image of heroes as being the big, beefy, muscular guys, but you're not seeing women portrayed as much. And while Marvel has been willing to greenlight projects where there's male heroes, there's not focused as much on the female heroes. What can we do to overcome this? Because actually it's interesting when you think about Marvel's history in terms of its comics. Its mainland comic, The Avengers, actually was the first comic to feature a female superhero, and not only feature a female superhero, but she was actually at one time the leader of the Avengers. So how does Marvel, you all as artists coming to the forefront today, deal with this particular issue, and particularly with the issue in terms of females of color?
Well, one of the things I was going to speak on with the first question was that as far as the changing the times with the internet and social media, now there are so many barriers that used to exist that are starting to break down. The barrier of entry is, it's almost non-existent now. Yeah. Like they made a cartoon and put it on YouTube. Okay, before you'd have to have so much red tape and stuff to get exposure for people to be able to see it. Now you can just put it out there and people can see it. And whereas used to, behind the scenes, the people who were working on different comic books or cartoons, you never saw anybody's face. You don't know who they were doing it. You had to go through these big, huge companies and get your stuff out there. Now with Facebook and Tumblr and all these artists are now putting their stuff, their individual work out there. So now we know their names, we know who they are. There are women that are just popping up everywhere now that we didn't know that are just doing some awesome work. You know, creating Steven Universe was created by a lady. was it the new Star cartoon? The Forces of Evil. That's a lady created that. There's a woman who draws Spider-Man now. Before, whereas there were black artists and women who might have, you know, the whole bureaucratic stuff of the politics and all that stuff, Marvel and DC, you know, some of the big companies might have been able to keep them away. But now everybody can see their work and see how good these people are. Now they can't deny them. Now all these people are starting to see work now because they can't be denied because their work is out there because of the internet.
What was your favorite cartoon animation? What was your favorite one around this?
It's funny because even though I'm an adult, I still have favorite cartoons. So basically, I can turn on Cartoon Network, and I have my own children. I can turn on and I watch everything with them. I watch Steven Universe. I watch, Gravity Falls, and and a lot of the stuff that I do, is a lot. It's kind of like that work because that's how I start. I used to look at Muppet Babies and look at it, and I'd pause it and then I'd start drawing it. So that's just kind of how my style kind of developed from just watching cartoons and stuff. So, what they were saying earlier is that he's trying to get exposure and gain that. Most of those cartoons, those were people who were going to different comic book conventions and doing work already on their own. Because now all the expensive equipment that it used to take to make cartoons, some of that stuff you can just save a little while and have it home, and you can make it yourself. And they already have an audience, so it's hard for a network to deny something that already has a huge following because that's just makes them more money. It's like, okay, all these people already know it's out there and all these people are already consuming this thing. Well, we want to get in on that.
You know about the micro celebrity movement?
No, what is that?
Oh, it's a movement away from mainstream media and everything, and it's something I found out researching on the internet, especially about animation cartoons, that in the future it won't be superstars and big celebrities who'll give us as much fame as the micro celebrities, since YouTube, Tumblr, Twitch, and all these other social media outlets that expose everyone around the world to some new product will be made available to everyone. Look it up, it's actually interesting.
Is there a way to get exposed to Disney Channel or Cartoon Network without going through the YouTube?
Well, let me tell you how they work. You have to have representation. They won't even pick up the phone on you. Like I said, we try to knock on his door, say, wait, we got something out on YouTube. They don't even want to hear it. Unless you got that, like I said, at 100,000 views or more, that's when they start coming looking for you. And I actually talked to a guy he was the vice president of the Cartoon Network at the time, because I went to Atlanta when I first had just still pictures, and I met with Phaedra Parks. Y'all know Phaedra Parks from Real Housewives of Atlanta. I had a meeting with her in her office, and she put us on the phone with the Cartoon Network's vice president. And he said, I know I would like what you guys have, but I'm gonna tell you right now, if we produce it, you will have nothing to do with it. So basically, just be a creator. And you just see your name on the being created, but your vision and the way you think the cartoon should go, it's non-existent. They're gonna use their own people. They're gonna use their own writers. They're gonna use everything. So it's just knocking you out basically out of the building. So basically, it's like you've never been there, but you never really pay attention to who the creator is until the cartoon's been on for a couple of years or months or however long you actually look at the credits. But they would not talk to you. And it's kind of hard right now to find representation in the business, unless you actually have representation. I know it sounds weird because I actually talked to somebody to try to represent me. They said, well, do you have representation now? And I said, no. Well, find representation, then come and talk to me. If I got representation, I ain't gonna need to talk to you. So it don't make sense. Like I said, it's hard. It's almost like a small club that they try to keep it small niche. And just like what you were just saying, with everybody working together, that's when we went to Atlanta, we seen that. In North Carolina, the same way. It's just something about Louisville, you got all this rich talent here, and nobody wants to work with each other. So what I've been doing, the people that wants to work together, I've been getting their numbers and their names. So if they don't want to work with each other, we can build a pack over here, and everybody can start working together, and it make you, okay, these people are making this success over here, then you're going to have to come over here and work with each other. It's kind of open up the floodgates. But it has to start with a group. It just can't start with one person, One person can talk all they You know what I mean? Talk all they want, but the proof ain't in the pudding. Like you putting out stuff, and people see that they actually want to get connected with you. It's not gonna happen. So that's what we're doing now. We're trying to get as many people as we can to start a group. Let's get together. Let's do it.
So who's your favorite character?
I like Iron Man, Thor, like all them cats. There ain't too many of them.
I mean, Batman was always one of my personal favorites. You know, Bane, all the villains that came along with Batman and Spider-Man, all those type of people. But I've always been like a big Batman fan, honestly. So yeah, always.
You know what I mean?
One thing that I'm excited about this whole panel today, and what I'm really excited about is that my daughter is a huge artist, and to see this other young lady who's an artist. And what I'm loving is that it seems like the young women are really getting into this field. So, with that being said, you know, I'm the overprotective father. What I want to know is this: what is the advice that I can get to my daughter? Like when we were having a conversation before they started, and I said, what I want you to be is on the level that your art transcends your sex and your color. I don't want people coming in just saying she's a black female artist. I want them to be like, no, she's the best artist, period. So what advice would you give to young artists that's trying to come up, whether they're a color, whether they're female or not, what can they do to make sure that their art or whatever vision that they're trying to do transcends all of that so that it goes before them?
I think any piece of work that you're putting out, it has to reflect everything that you see. You know, even if you live in a particular neighborhood, at some point in your life you're gonna encounter different people. You know, whether when you're at work, you're at school, you're gonna see different people. So you have to pick up pieces of different. Like when I do my comic strip, I pick up different pieces of different characters and people I've met throughout my life. You know, even though somebody may try to pigeonhole me and look at my comic strip and say, well, this is a black cartoon, you know, it's colorless to me because I have so many different characters in there. Maybe the main character might be black, but all the other people are a reflection of different people. So I just think you just have to be true to what you see around you. You're not always going to be right here. Once you walk out here, you're going to see different people. So you got to pick up different things that you see in your life and put that and make it reflect into your work. And people will see it. People are going to see what they want to see, but you reflect, push out what you want people to see. You know, so.
I'm wondering, this is going to be a little controversial, but for the black cartoonists, have you limited yourself by saying black cartoonists?
No, absolutely not.
I'm just asking a question.
No, I haven't, and it's something where it's funny. I go to a lot of shows and I go to a lot of conventions, and I have a pretty big online presence, and there's a huge difference when people meet me in person and then look at my art versus look at my art and then meet me in person. The impression that they get of me is completely different. When they see my art, they think they have an image of my mind of what the artist looks like, and then they meet me in person, and it's almost as if they're disappointed or shocked or flabbergasted that a black man could make art that looks like this. Versus when they meet me in person, they're like, "Oh, you do art? That's nice. What kind of art do you do? Sure, I'll take a look." And then they open it up, and they're like, "Oh, wow." And so, it's something that I've found very interesting. I'm still struggling with how to interpret that and how to approach that in terms of my life as an artist and the art that I do. But it's something where I've made it a point where I don't say I'm a black cartoonist. I'm a cartoonist who is black. I'm not a black artist. I'm an artist who is black.
To address your question, Janice, I don't think it matters whether you're a black artist, an artist who happens to be black, or you're a black artist. That's completely irrelevant as far as I'm concerned based on the artists that I know from around the country. Everybody is their fan if they're good. Kind of addresses your question as well. You have to grow your own market over time. And it happens over time in our age on social media. So that's how you grow and control your business. There are black comic conventions all over the country. The East Coast, I wrote them down because I can't remember them all. The Black Science Fiction Society is an online group with Facebook. East Coast Black Age of Comics, they have a convention in Philadelphia. Motor City Black Age of Comics, they're having theirs in September in Detroit. Onyx Con, it's in Atlanta. I think they have theirs 2 times a year. So the people that I've met in person at different Comic Cons, including Chicago Comic Con, which is a general comic convention, I have black comic creator friends who sell to everybody, and they ain't ashamed to say who they are. So I think it's irrelevant. Be a black comic book artist. It's okay. It's not stopping you from selling anything to anybody.
You expand on it. It doesn't matter as long as you're selling your work.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
Call yourself what you want to or don't. But for our children, for our young people, I think it is important. I do.
Did you have a question?
I want a question for Mr. Pepper. Can you tell a little bit more about yourself, your past history, and then your opinion on the growth of animation here in Louisville?
Well, I started off in '85 doing comics for a small company out of Atlanta, and it was called Comics Interview Publications. They were doing a book called The Southern Knights. It was sort of like the Avengers, only they were based in Atlanta, because most comic book characters were either in like New York or California, or they would create fictional cities for them to operate in. But a bunch of people there that wanted to produce a comic had the idea of, why not use your hometown, as a basis for a comic. And from there, I started working for other companies. As a matter of fact, my first comic convention was Chicago. And that was how I also got my first professional comics job. I had my portfolio tucked under my arm, and I had showed it to one of the editors there, and they liked my work and, said they would be in touch with me. And I was thinking, yeah, sure, I'll never hear from them. Went home, and I guess maybe 3 months later, I get a call, and they said they remembered seeing my work in Chicago, and they had a short story that they wanted illustrated and wanted to know if I was interested. Of course I said, nah, not interested. I told them I would be, happy to do it. So I did that. It was only like an 8-page story in the back of one of their comics. And they liked it. And I guess maybe a week or so later, they said, well, we have another one. Are you interested in that? And I said, sure. I did that. After that, they said, well, we have a series that we're doing, and we was wanting to know if you would want to do that. And I worked with that. It was The Southern Knights. I did that for 5 years, and because of that, that opened other doors to other companies. They saw my work through that and said, are you interested in this? So that's been sort of snowballing since the 80s, and that led to a bunch of friends of mine. We got together, and we had the opportunity to meet one of the marketing directors for Starz cable channel. And this was quite a few years back. They were putting together the Starz Kids channel. It was the one where they only show like kids shows and cartoons and kids movies and Disney films and that sort of thing. And they saw a project that we had been working on. It was an animated kid show that we were developing, and they saw the characters and they were interested in 2 of the characters. They said, we want to do a promotional piece for this new Starz network that we're coming up with, and we would like to use your 2 characters. So we got a contract with Starz to do a 60 and a 30-second promotional spot. And I mean, it's just, from there, it's just been a whirlwind. I mean, I've just been, sticking my feet in all kinds of water and stirring all kinds of Kool-Aids. I've been having a really good time with this, and right now, as he was saying earlier about getting something established here, and that would keep the talent here to keep them from moving on. I also see the possibilities of once we get something firmly established here, not only would it keep our talent here, it would also bring talent to us from other places. Because, like he was saying, one of the big problems right now is people wanting to make it, but when they make it, they want to make it somewhere else. You know, they leave here, and we need to keep our talent anchored here. So not only would we grow, as a force in animation, artistic endeavors, but we can also inspire others to come here to develop their talent and to grow. Born and raised.
What are you doing now?
Right now I'm working with a company out of Florence, Kentucky called Skystorm. They do a lot of independent comic work, and they do children's books. And I've worked with them on and off since probably about 94, 95. And they're doing a revival of a lot of their characters, and I've been working on that. Plus they do another comic called Clay's Way. It's the owner of the company has an autistic son, and he used that as a basis to develop a comic book series to, inspire people and educate people about autism and that sort of thing. And I've been working with them.
So Louisville been good to you, huh?
Oh yeah. No, I'm not going anywhere.
All right, folks, it's getting to be about that time, and I'd like to thank our panelists for coming out and sharing their expertise.
So thank you for tuning in to Louisville's Finest, a talent showcase.